Greetings and welcome to the Real Deal Science Fiction Podcast, where I look at all things science fiction, science fact, and where it all comes together. I am your host, SciFi, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new Avengers movie, Infinity War. We'll talk about superhumans, and finally I'm going to finish up with the Netflix original series, TheDefenders. Remember to subscribe to the Real Deal Science Fiction Podcast and write a review on iTunes or whatever platform you may be using. Join in on the conversation and follow the show on Twitter or Facebook, or go to polyscifi.com, that's P-A-U-L-Y,
Hey, Pauly.
SCIFI.com, and post your thoughts on the feed in the podcast section. There's been a lot of talk about Infinity War and the lack of spoilers, of which you won't find any here, and the lack of them has reaffirmed my faith in mankind. I'm sure you could find them, but unlike what happens to other movies, this one has been kept under tight wraps. Some movies even have spoilers posted by reviewers who are invited to pre-screenings, but Infinity War has been completely different. So the big question is Infinity War worth going to see in the theaters? I can honestly say that it is. I was expecting big scope from this film, and I was not disappointed. I went into the movie expecting a lot, and I got what I was expecting, with some extra thrown in for good measure. Of course, the special effects were amazing, and the acting could not have been better. The idea of pulling all these big-name actors together for this movie was a great idea from the beginning. The amount of money spent on paying the cast alone must be a staggering figure. Luckily, Infinity War is breaking box office records, so as long as they have some decent accountants, we should be seeing plenty more from Marvel. Infinity War is the first of two films, which is the culmination of a decade of work by the studio, writers, directors, and all of the people who have been lucky enough to be a part of this massive undertaking. The next film is still untitled, and I think that may be more due to the fact that even a title would have been a spoiler. So now that Infinity War is finally out, it shouldn't be long until we learn the title of the next movie. Until then, we still have Marvel movies coming out, and Infinity War got me excited to see them. Since the tales of Hercules and Odysseus, humans have been envisioning people with powers beyond those of normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill folk. These super beings could do things which would boggle the mind of those bearing witness, and they could do battle with petty and jealous gods. Now, in the new millennium, we've seen a resurgence in the idea of superheroes, or metahumans as they are being called today, but what is the likelihood of us seeing these superpowered humans in action in our lifetimes? There are new and exciting technologies that we are on the cusp of, which make it very likely indeed. Let's start with the technological aspect of superpowering our species. Iron Man and Batman are just two of a whole host of fictional characters who use technology to gain their title. It's not the technology which makes them heroes, but it is the tech which makes them super. Over the past decade, we have seen some amazing advances, and with the invention of graphene, we will be seeing a whole lot more in the near future. With this material, we will be seeing lightweight metals which for all intents and purposes will rival Tony Stark's Iron Man suit. One of the drawbacks to such a design is the self-feeding power generation it would take to power such a device. Sadly, we're not much closer to that breakthrough than we were in the 60s. There is a school of thought which states the US government already has technology to change the way we generate power, but without a shred of proof, it's a conspiracy theory. There are suits being designed and tested which would, when finished, allow everyday humans to lift hundreds of pounds with zero effort. These machines which augment humans are still bulky and not ready for prime time, but they show the ways our technology can be used to create metahumans. We are able to see in the dark using technology and communicate across the world, which we now take for granted. The future is here for technology, and metahumans based upon that technology are just around the corner. There are people who are implanting technology within their bodies to discover the effects of combining technology with the human form. These pioneers are trying to bridge that gap and every day we're getting closer to making science fiction a reality. What about changing our biology so we're able to take advantage of dormant genes or change our physical structure to emulate other species? The idea of altering the human form is something that science fiction has warned about since the beginning of the genre, but the reality is often different than the perceived drawbacks. Humanity is on the cusp of some major breakthroughs in the field of gene editing, and CRISPR is just one of those. Imagine if mankind were able to take the best of the animal kingdom and combine it with the best of humanity to create a biological metahuman. Theoretically, there would be no limit to human potential. At this time, though, the promise of gene manipulation is far off, and even those working on it believe we're going to have to live with our shortcomings for a long time. But humanity has the mental acuity to make it happen, if we don't blow the planet up first. One of my favorite comics when I was a kid was TheDefenders. The gritty nature of the superhero group was something I had been looking for in my comic reading before I even knew it was what I wanted. This was before Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Watchmen, so comic books were still quite vanilla. When I saw that Netflix was making it a series, I was pumped. When I started watching it, my excitement soon faded. It's not just my mission to give you the good in science fiction, but it is also my duty to warn you of the bad. This series is one of the most boring things I have watched. The characters are one-dimensional and seem like they would rather be anywhere than where they are. I think that is what the creators were going for, but that sentiment carried over to me. After the first couple of episodes, I no longer cared what was going to happen. The action is far too little and way too late. A series needs dialogue, but the amount of exposition in this series is boring and contrived. David Carradine makes an appearance as Matt Murdock's one-handed teacher Stick, but even his appearance could not save this rambling tale. By the way, what's with the stump? Whoever thought it looked good should be fired and never allowed on another movie set. Ever. We only have so many hours in a day we can spend on watching our shows, and we don't want to waste them. Well, I've wasted some of my precious hours on this, and I don't want you to do the same. Don't bother with The Defenders. It's a train wreck, and you don't want to be anywhere near it. And now for a final thought. The idea of mutants has been with us for many years now, and there are those of us who have learned not to fear those who are different from us because of our love for movies and comics. That's a step in the right direction, but we see people every day who have decided anything different from themselves is to be despised and destroyed. Mankind is a group of individuals, but a group nonetheless. What one person does reflects upon the rest of us. How are we to become more than who we are if some people will not get past their xenophobia and join in the real world and live in harmony with all? Humanity can be better than who we are today, and those who will not evolve are holding the rest of us back. Education is not about learning letters and numbers, but it is about learning how to think and what to think about. Education and the eradication of divisive and hateful thoughts will bring us to a new dawn for mankind. There are those who will hold on to their fear and hatred, and it's up to us to show the world there is a better way. Thank you for listening to the Real Deal Science Fiction Podcast. If you enjoy the show, please leave a review on whatever podcast service you're using. If you want to get in on the conversation, go to PaulySciFi.com. That's Pauly.
Hey, Pauly.
SciFi.com, and post your thoughts on the feed in the podcast section. I'm Pauly Sci-Fi, wishing you an amazing today and an even brighter tomorrow.